a true crime documentary on the tragic death of Lorenzo Lorenzi. The Lorenzi family seemed like the epitome of the American dream. A loving couple, two beautiful sons, and a charming house nestled in a quiet suburban neighborhood. On the outside, the kind of life many people yearn for. But on one fateful morning, that picture-perfect existence would be shattered, and the truth behind what really happened would spiral into a horrifying and tragic mystery. The case of Lorenzo Lorenzi is one that has haunted both investigators and the public alike. It is a story of love and a twisted turn of events that defied all logic. It seemed as though a sudden and inexplicable medical catastrophe had claimed the life of a young boy. His mother, in a tearful, frantic statement, claimed that her son's brain had exploded, but as the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the reality of his death was far worse, far darker, than anyone could have imagined. This documentary delves into the life of the Lorenzi family, the events that led up to Lorenzo's tragic death, and the shocking truth that was eventually revealed. The details surrounding the case are filled with unimaginable twists, from the family's seemingly perfect life to the sudden unraveling of a tragedy that would leave everyone asking the same question: what really happened that morning? A picture of perfection. The Lorenzi family seemed to have everything going for them. Giovanni Lorenzi and his wife, Elena, had built a life that many would envy. Giovanni was a successful architect with a reputation for being hardworking and dedicated to his craft. Elena, a stay-at-home mother, was deeply devoted to raising their two sons, Lorenzo and Matteo. Lorenzo, at the time of his death, was a 12-year-old boy full of life. His younger brother, Matteo, who was just a few years behind, looked up to him as his hero. The family lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood in the city of Carmichael, California, a peaceful area far removed from the crime and drama that often dominates the news. Their house, a modest two-story home with a neatly trimmed lawn, was the image of suburban bliss. The parents had dreams for their children, hoping that they would grow up to be happy, healthy, and successful individuals. But everything began to change on the morning of July 15, 2018. The morning of the tragedy, what happened to Lorenzo. It was a normal summer morning in Carmichael. The sun was shining, and the day promised to be warm, but nothing could prepare the Lorenzi family for what was about to happen. Giovanni was already at work, and Elena had just finished preparing breakfast when she went to wake up Lorenzo. She entered his bedroom and found him lying in his bed, unresponsive. The frantic mother initially assumed that her son had suffered some kind of medical emergency, maybe a seizure or a stroke. She rushed to his side. She quickly called 911, explaining that her son was unresponsive and that she feared something catastrophic had happened to him. Elena's voice was filled with panic as she told the dispatcher, "Something's wrong." Her words would become the shocking statement that would captivate the public. But as emergency responders arrived, they quickly realized that what they were dealing with was far more complicated than a medical emergency. When paramedics arrived at the Lorenzi home, they found Lorenzo Lorenzi lying on his bed dead. Elena, still in a state of shock, kept repeating that her son's brain had exploded. The shocking autopsy findings. The initial diagnosis of a brain explosion was not only unusual but unfounded. Forensic pathologist Dr. Emily Barnes, who performed the autopsy on Lorenzo, would soon discover something far more sinister. Lorenzo had died from blunt force trauma to the head, not a spontaneous medical event like an aneurysm or stroke. Upon closer inspection, Dr. Barnes found signs of bruising on the back of Lorenzo's skull, suggesting that someone had hit him with significant force. As investigators examined the evidence, it became apparent that Lorenzo's death was not an accident. The nature of the injuries suggested that he had been struck hard enough to cause significant trauma to the brain, leading to his sudden death. There were no signs of forced entry into the Lorenzi home, and nothing appeared to be missing. This left investigators with only one potential answer. Someone inside the home was responsible. The investigation. With the autopsy report revealing that Lorenzo had been struck in the head, police quickly turned their attention to the family. The first person they interviewed was Elena Lorenzi, who had made the initial 911 call. Her statement was filled with emotion. She claimed that Lorenzo's brain had exploded, but there was no explanation for how this could have happened. Elena's statements led investigators to focus on her as a potential suspect. It was clear that she was deeply distraught over her son's death, but there were questions about her behavior in the aftermath. Why did she continue to repeat that her son's brain had exploded? As police dug deeper, they uncovered something that would shake the investigation to its core. Elena Lorenzi was hiding a secret. It was revealed that Elena had been in a toxic, abusive relationship with her husband Giovanni, and the tension in their marriage had been growing for years. Elena had confided in a close friend just days before Lorenzo's death that she feared for the safety of her children. Elena's friend, Samantha Johnson, came forward with information about the troubled marriage. Samantha revealed that Giovanni had been physically abusive toward Elena and had once threatened Lorenzo. The shocking revelation. The investigation took a shocking turn when Giovanni Lorenzi was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. It turned out that the trauma Lorenzo had suffered to the head had been caused by a heavy object, not an accidental fall or injury. Giovanni had been involved in an altercation with his son just hours before his death. Witnesses reported hearing heated arguments in the Lorenzi household the night before, and several neighbors had seen Giovanni leaving the house early in the morning, just hours before the tragedy occurred. Upon further questioning, Giovanni admitted to the crime, but claimed that it was an accident. He explained that he had struck Lorenzo in a fit of anger during a heated argument. Giovanni said that he had lost control and struck Lorenzo with a metal object. Investigators found this explanation hard to believe. The sheer force required to cause such extensive damage to Lorenzo's skull suggested something far more deliberate than a simple argument gone wrong. The trial. The trial of Giovanni Lorenzi became a media sensation, capturing the public's attention with its shocking details. In court, Giovanni pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 20 years in prison for the killing of his son. The defense painted a picture of a father who had made a horrible mistake during a moment of rage, but the prosecution argued that Giovanni had been abusive toward his family for years, and that this was not an isolated incident. The trial revealed the deep emotional scars left on the Lorenzi family, especially for Elena. She had been living in a marriage filled with abuse. Her failure to intervene in the moments leading up to Lorenzo's death haunted her. In the end, Giovanni's admission of guilt was the only solace for the Lorenzi family, but the damage was irreparable. The tragedy of Lorenzo's death left an indelible mark on everyone who knew him, and his mother, Elena, was left to grapple with the fact that her son had been killed by the one person she had trusted the most, his own father. A family torn apart. Lorenzo's death marked the beginning of a long road to recovery for the Lorenzi family. Elena, though devastated, vowed to honor her son's memory and raise awareness about domestic violence and the impact of abusive relationships. She became an advocate for other women in similar situations, encouraging them to seek help and break free from abusive partnerships before it was too late. For many, the case of Lorenzo Lorenzi serves as a stark reminder of the hidden dangers within families. It is a tragic story of betrayal, abuse, murder. No one could have anticipated that a seemingly perfect family would fall apart in such a horrific way.